Hey everybody, this is World News Weekly from the Michael Inomcha podcast. This is the very first episode focusing on world news. Don't know how happy I am to introduce you such a great and a fantastic episode, and I'm so glad to have you. This episode will majorly cover and give you a highlight on global events that are happening throughout the previous week in one episode across the continent. And today's episode, being the very first, we shall give you a hint on whatever has been happening in the news across Africa, across Europe, Americas, and across Asia. With Africa, and we see Angola set to go for polls in the most competitive election in decades. You know Angola, the country that got independence from the Portuguese in 1960. When Angola got her independence from the Portuguese, that's a hint that I've given you. People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola are set to compete in yet another term with their president João Lourenço, a former minister of defense under the government of Eduardo dos Santos, who happens to have died recently in July, and against Alberto Costa Jr. of UNITA. The unique thing about this election is that 47 years of MPLA, we see stiff competition between the two parties, Alberto Costa Jr. and Lourenço of MPLA, because UNITA has been overshadowed, and we see MPLA has been dominating the politics of Angola, and they come hoping to win. The allegation that the death of Eduardo dos Santos is used by the incumbent to win sympathy over citizens who are tired of a non-developmental policy set up by the MPLA for over 47 years. They feel they need that change. However, the change they're giving it to their all the opponents, the UNITA. Uganda, the Committee on Commissioned Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises, which is commonly embraced as COSASE in the Ugandan Parliament, has received a request from the Uganda Airlines that the probe on its operations by the committee should be done without media, according to the chairperson of the board, to their publication about the airline, that the media is ruining the reputation of the airline, the newly and re-established Uganda Airlines. There are a lot of irregularities when it comes to the operation of the airline, and the committee is carrying out a probe to know why the newly established airline is not performing its expectations. You will let me know in comments. Do you think the media should be left out when it comes to probing the operations of Uganda Airline by the COSASE? In Africa, still we see Raila Odinga of Azimio la Umoja submitting a case to challenge an election of 9th August where William Ruto of UDA managed to win by 50.49% of the general election. This is an election that is most interesting and so competitive, and the whole of Africa has really been ready to see this at the outcomes. How will Kenyans take it? How will the competing people in the competing bodies, the UDA and Azimio? Still, we shall go straight to Americas, where Fedid Roman, rest in peace, becomes the 15th media personality to be killed in 2022. The governments are opposing journalists that are trying to bring out events that happen in governments to light. Roman, who has been running an online outlet focusing on state-level politics, has been gunned down in the capital, Mexico, the Mexico City. This is something that the world makers should discuss, because journalists are really losing their life. We've seen a couple of them being violated, being mistreated by governments, but reaching an extent of losing life by gunpoint or by gun down. It's something that is shocking and threatening the practice. In America, still we see the heart of former Brazil Emperor being returned nearly after 200 for a state visit, according to AFP. Remember that Emperor Pedro, who declared the Brazil independence from Portugal around 1822, his heart has been returned, and previously it has been preserved in Portugal. It is returned at this time where Brazil is celebrating the commemoration of 200 years since it gained independence. So that's where in Asia we see the Thai court in Thailand is suspending the presence of their Prime Minister Chan Ocha Paruth from office by Constitutional Court over considering reviewing term limits. Remember, he had came into power in 2014 and his term was meant to end this week, and he was planning of extending or removing the term limits, as we have seen in the number of dictators in a given countries. But he has been ousted by the court, and this is an issue that has been raised by the opposition MPs in parliament in Thailand. This is a great move for democracy in Thailand, and we hope it yields the best. In Asia still, we see Malaysia's ex-prime minister Najib Razak being sent to prison for 12 years. Remember, he had that $1 multi-billion scandal case that has been battling in court, and this is regarded to be one of the most and biggest financial frauds that have ever happened in the records. Forget about all those others you've been hearing on this podcast. I'm able to tell you that this is the world's biggest financial fraud, multi-billion-dollar scandal. It is something that the government and the citizens in Malaysia are not ready to accept. Their former prime minister, who is meant to be an example to the incumbent or any other person expecting to be their premier, to do such a thing. Let's hope it happens to be like they have wished. Elsewhere, we see in Britain, they are really happy seeing their country importing no energy from Russia for the first time on record after trade between the two countries collapsed. Remember, Kremlin ordered and announced the invasion of Ukraine in February, and we've seen imports from Russia, the trade between Russia and Britain decreasing drastically, rapidly. Sales and fuel, natural gas, energy, all those energy exports and imports reducing by a higher percentage. And on this podcast, we shall be telling you stories. You just have to keep locked on the Microeconomics podcast. The episode is available on Google Podcast, it's available on Outcast, available on Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcast. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, I Know Chamaiko. Follow us on Twitter, I Know Chamaiko. Still, the handle is Ninye Maiko. Thank you for being part of this journey. We look forward to having you and more podcasts, episodes as they come through. Bye bye. Next week. See you next time.